So welcome to That Mental TV, the very first episode, episode 1. And I'm so chuffed that we've got James Crystal. I met James Crystal around 4 years ago in church. James Crystal is such an interesting guy, and I'm delighted he said yes, yes, yes to today's interview. James is a fashion designer. He is a mental health advocate and up-and-coming influencer. In fact, you want to check this guy out. He's going to be moving and shaking in the world of mental health in a much bigger way. In fact, he's going to be at Bank of England telling his story. But first, we've got access to him. Welcome to the show, James Crystal. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, always a pleasure. I always love talking to you, and anything to help mental health. I'm here, I'm very, very keen. So always a pleasure, always a pleasure.
So we are delighted that you've agreed to come on the show for us, because you're a very busy man, aren't you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, James?
I'm currently founder and MD at Everse. So our mission is to have a positive impact on the UK statistics, mental health statistics, and help destigmatise mental health. So we do that through the clothing we put out, the events we put on, the money we raise for charity, and then the content, just encouraging people to share their stories. So that's that. I'm also a full-time business student at university, and I work a couple of days a week as well.
So just a little bit then, you're busy a little bit then, not much, not much on your plate.
Nicely busy.
Your story with mental health is phenomenal. No wonder you're being booked up around the United Kingdom to speak and share. So why don't you share with us, where did it all start, James, for you?
I guess it all started when I was like a teenager. I grew up with ADHD. I should say, I grew up in an incredible family, but I was always kind of labelled as being naughty, not necessarily by my parents, but by teachers and people at sort of activity groups and stuff. And then when I was 15, they diagnosed me with ADHD, which was a real improvement on just being called labelled a naughty boy. And I guess that's kind of where my journey with mental health started. I was then kicked out of school when I was 15. Just like I say, struggled with authority and kind of behaving. And then I got kind of in with a bad crowd of people, who had negative influences on my life. I ended up being drugged and sexually abused on multiple occasions by the same man. And just really devastated my life actually for a long time. And I think as a teenager, my way of dealing with what had happened, or not dealing, should I say, was to just take loads of drugs, abuse alcohol, and just all sorts of vices, chasing money and that kind of lifestyle, and everything that I thought would kind of take the pain away and just help me to forget really what had happened. And I was just in complete denial. I was full of shame and embarrassment and guilt, and didn't want to admit that it happened. Lost my confidence, my self-esteem, dignity, and I just completely lost all self-respect. All respect for myself went out the window, and just really went into I sometimes say survival, but I think actually just self-destruct mode. And just started going down a really dark road, and committing crimes to kind of feed my habits and my lifestyle. And then I was in court for dealing drugs, and I ended up going to prison for robbery. And then I guess that's kind of where that part of my life ended, and then
so
the next chapter kind of
sorry
began.
to interrupt, but where was your family at this point, and what was going on with the family side of things? What did they think of you doing all of this?
At this point, I'm effectively a young man, and I'm, my family, hated it and just desperately wanted, me to change. And my mum and dad would pray for me every day, and they were just 100% supportive, and tried to do anything they could to help. And but I was out of control at the end of the day. When you're 15, 16, 17, 18, you know, you're free to do whatever you want, you know. And I used to run away for weeks on end, and you know, my mum and dad would ring the police. The police would end up bringing me home, and you know, my poor mum and dad, I just put them through hell and back, and you know, that's one thing that I'll always regret.
Well, the thing is, James, you've come a long way from the past, and you know, you may have put them through that in the past, but now I'm sure they're really proud of you. Because tell us how you turned your life around, what happened, and who was it that was responsible for that triggering moment where you went, enough is enough.
Yeah, so I guess I need to give a bit more context. So when I was sent to prison, I was diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD and depression, and just my mental health just took a massive hit. Like when I was no longer able to use vices and things to take the pain away, just having to deal with everything that had happened, all the trauma, the pain, the people I'd hurt. It was just, yeah, it was a horrible, horrible time, and I went into, you know, I became clinically depressed, and it was just, like I said, another very, very low point in my life. And that went on for probably about 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Um, so yeah, and I mean, I came out of prison and kind of looked for a fresh start, seeking, you know, a new life. And yeah, I guess the big change came when I found a church community who just loved me and just cared for me, championed me, you know, lifted me up, built me up rather than tear me down, and just didn't see me for my shattered past. You know, they just saw, yeah, saw a young man who, you know, needed loving and nurturing, and so that was massive. That was a massive, massive turning point.
What led you to church, James? What was it that made you go, I need church? Because some people would come out and not even think about church. Others would maybe revert back to old behaviours because that's all they know. But you, what was it about you and that moment where you went, it's church?
Well, to be honest, it was like I've always like had a faith. I've always said I've had a faith. I've always called myself a Christian. Um, you know, I think I heard that Tim Hughes was putting had a church, and I just wanted to meet him really. So I was like, that'd be quite cool because I'd heard his music, and then I just went there to meet because I wanted to meet him and just loved it. Just something about it just drew me in. Like I said, the people in the church, and just the whole, like, you can just feel the Holy Spirit and just the presence of God. It was just incredible. You know, it just attracted me very, very much.
So what happened next in terms of your healing?
Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a journey. Like, you know, I gave my life to Jesus, and that was amazing, and a massive weight lifted off my shoulders. But I was still like really depressed. I was in a very dark place, and you know, I was on loads of medication, and I was sleeping about 18 hours a day. Only a matter of years ago, you know, and I was like very, like, seriously depressed. I was curled up in a ball for, you know, days on end without eating, you know, just crying and just not wanting to go out, not answering the phone to anyone. You know, I was in a very, very, very dark place. And then the catalyst for change, the massive change, came when I chose to forgive my abuser. So, you know, this guy had a hold over my life for all of those years. I nearly lost a decade of my life, and you know, I kind of blamed him for all of that. Like I blamed him for everything that went wrong, and you know, like I said, it controlled my life for so long, and I just came to the realization that I needed to put it behind me, and you know, I was never going to find any freedom until actually I'd forgiven him, and so yeah, it was, you know, forgave him, and you know, took the pain away, and you know, obviously the resentment and hatred that I had for him, you know, I no longer feel, and just found massive, massive freedom from addictions. You know, I gave up alcohol 3 years ago in July, so 3 years sober off alcohol, which is massive, and then massive freedom from my mental health as well. And you know, I've learned to, you know, change, like from like alcohol addiction, for example, to just using the gym and exercising and things like that. you know, and just like some serious lifestyle changes. And but you know, forgiveness obviously set me free, and that's, you know, got to be a massive part of my story and my healing journey.
You're a remarkable young man, because for you, it doesn't just end there. Every day you work on your mental health, don't you? Every day, every hour of the day. It's you know, something that you're constantly working on, constantly you advocate. Because there's been a bit of a kind of misconception, I think, with mental health, where you deal with the problem and that's it. But actually, it's a daily thing, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about how you manage your mental health on a daily basis.
Yeah, I will do. You know, I think like we all have a mental health. You know, at the end of the day, you know, people say, you know, it's 1 in 4, but everyone has a mental health. Everyone's going to have down days and up days. You know, at the end of the day. So I don't know. For me, it's about finding, you know, healthy options, like which are good for my mind, good for my soul, and good for my body. But you know, I'm a massive advocate for mindfulness. You know, and looking, practicing, you know, positivity, and looking at positive psychology and how that can help my mental health. And just, you know, when things are out of my control, I try not to get too hung up on them and let it consume me, just because there's no point. Like, you know, if it's out of your control, what's the point in getting upset about it? So I try and just focus on things that are in my control. And you know, shit happens, and if something that's out of my control happens, then you know, I've just got to deal with it. And what I try and do is try and find a positive in it, you know. And you know, everything negative that happens, everything bad, there's always going to be something good that comes out of it, like if you search hard enough. And so I find that's massively helpful for my mental health. Another thing is like watching my sleep. Like I find if I sleep too much, I get like if I sleep too long, like it really affects my mental well-being. I find you know, I get quite low if I sleep too long. So I think anything over 8 hours for me just doesn't work. And then just exercising, just doing things that I love. Like I love to play golf. You know, I played a load of golf over the weekend, and I feel amazing for it. So you know, just doing things that, you know, you love, and what I love, is so good for you. And yeah.
What's key is that you've got a really supportive community around you, and that is key to recovery, isn't it, of any sort of addiction or mental health issue that you have. Tell us about your family. Where are they now, like in terms of how they view your journey and where you are?
Like my family is so proud of me. They really are. And you know, like, just so much credit to them, because they've just never given up on me. You know, and there was one point in court when the judge said to my mum and dad, you know, just give up on him. And like my mum and dad were like, he's our son, we'll never give up on him. You know, and my, you know, my mum and dad are amazing. My whole family are incredible, and I'm so blessed to have a loving family around me. And not just my blood family, but like my church family, you know, my friendship groups, and you know, people that I can say, you know what, I'm not feeling great, like yourself, you know, for one, you know, I'm not feeling good, you know, at the moment I'm feeling pretty low. And you know, you just rally around to kind of try and build me back up and speak positive, encouraging words to me. And that's just like, you know, fundamental, I think, as well. That was the next point I was going to get onto. It's so important to have that community around you.
And what's amazing is that you're now helping your community around you by, you know, you are a fashion designer, you've got your own fashion brand. But beyond that, you're actually venturing into the world of well-being and talking about mental health, and being positive about it, encouraging and building hope in others. And you're fast becoming an influencer. How does that feel, James?
To be honest, like I just want to, like I've always been quite easily influenced, but I just want to like influence people for good, you know. And you know, I've never like really seen my stories being that powerful. But like I've heard, like, you know, feedback. I've had feedback and heard stories of, you know, people who it's given real hope to in desperate situations. And you know, people that have, you know, managed to see some light after hearing my story. And so you know, you know, I'd be silly if I stopped telling it, you know, and stop doing what I'm doing. So yeah, you know, the community work's cool, and Everse, we give a percentage of the profits to our CIC, which puts on charity events, and we're able to educate people on different ways to improve their mental well-being using positive living and positive thinking. So yeah, it's cool. I always kind of said, you know, if I can save one life or help change one life, it'll be worth it. You know, and that's why we do it. You know, at the end of the day, and you know, I haven't been brought back from the grave for no reason. You know, like there's a reason why I'm still here today, and you know, I believe that reason is to help others and influence and inspire other people. So that's what I'm doing.
Well done. And it's not just fashion and well-being that you've kind of stuck to. You've actually dipped your toe in music, haven't you, James?
Yeah, I got a song. Yeah, I wrote a song called "One Prayer"
Yeah.
by JJC. Yeah, yeah, that was good fun actually. Yeah, I mean, I found in prison like writing poems and things was like really, really good, like a good way of releasing, you know, how I'm feeling and thinking. And then I guess it just came out and kept writing, but kind of tried to turn them into songs. And yeah, I got this one song, and yeah, I really enjoy it. You know, it's a great hobby.
Fantastic. So if anybody wants to check out your brand, where can they go to, my friend?
You can go to Everse UK, all the social media platforms, or www.everse.co.uk. Or you can email me if you want to email me, and you want to hear more info at everse.co.uk. That's EEVERSE. And yeah, like, you know, if you want to chat, if you want, you know, to share your story or whatever, just hit me up, and I'll be happy to help in any way I can.
There you have it. There you have it. James Crystal, thank you for joining That's Mental today. One last question. One of your most favourite quotes or scriptures, what would it be?
Oh, probably Nelson Mandela. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and hoping that it will kill someone else.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What a sucker punch. There you have it. James Crystal on That's Mental. Thank you for joining us today, James. We wish you the best, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Lots of love.